Welcome to the Blooming League of Original Podcasts.
We're back. Welcome to another year of Thrash and Treasure, the Torture Champion musical comedy podcast, which took 6 months off to produce a UK-based podcast whilst looking after two sick older people and a moody 16-year-old. And speaking of tired, I'm Aaron. And for our first episode back, it's a family affair because I'm joined by two of our TNT team today. First up, our latest team member. After we lost Matt somewhere in the desert, we found this guy on the outskirts of Roswell, New Mexico. But don't worry, he comes in peace and only probes our guests. It's Dave, the newly minted stand-up comedian. How's it going? In 25 words or less, how was your break?
It was good. Calling me a stand-up comedian's a bit of a stretch. I did some open mics.
Well, hey, you've done more than what I've done.
The first open mic went really well. The second open mic did not go so well. The mic itself kept cutting out on me.
Oh,
Oof.
no. You don't want that on your sophomore gig.
Nope.
Goodness gracious me. And we're joined, as usual, by the youngest member of our team, my protege and co-producer, who's the Christine Daaé to my Phantom, except I don't make him sing opera, I make him sing my praises. So welcome back, Spencer, the legit producer. How's it going?
Great.
In 25 words or less, how has your break been?
I'm great. I've been very busy.
Yep.
Just getting on the back end of being sick.
Yes.
Having the time of my life here in New York City, producing theater with my friends. We just announced 2 more shows at 54 Below for this coming year. And yeah, I'm having the time of my life.
Wow, while Luke Evans is there in fishnets and a corset, you're going to be underneath him. I am so jealous, and so is everyone else listening. Anyways, me in 5 words. Sorry, I'm still alive, bitches. Anyways, guess what?
What?
We're rejoined by a legendary return guest this week because he either loved his first episode or he's bored in retirement. So let's find out and catch the bus up to Sydney and catch up with the king of Aussie theatre to find out what he's been up to and shout him a rum along with an Aussie g'day again as we welcome back into our torture chamber a man whose heart is bigger than his resume and whose knowledge of theatre rivals only the American Theatre Wing's archives, which is fitting for a Tony nominee by name and reputation, because it's the irreplaceable Mr. Tony Sheldon. Yay, welcome back. Hey,
hooray!
old friend.
What do you say, old friend? How are you okay? Old friend, are we or are we unique?
And you did it in Australia too, didn't you?
Yes, except I didn't sing that song. I played Joe Josephson, the producer. I did. You got a tune. You need a tune you can hum. You need a tune that goes dum 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 de dum. That's the part I played.
I'm going to hide my face. I've had Lonnie Price on the show and Tonya Pinkins, who was also in the original Broadway cast.
Yes.
And I know, hey, old friend, da-da-da-da, old friend, I'm so sorry.
Well, I'm getting to work with Reg Rogers, who just played Joe in the most recent revival.
Yes.
I work at Little Shop of Horrors, where he's currently playing Mushnik and is giving the most memorable performance of that role I've ever seen. He's so funny.
He's brilliant, Reg. I did Project Shore with him for David Stella. And yes, Reg is just brilliant. He really is. Andy Carl's just leaving now, isn't he? And Claiborne Elder's going in?
Yes, I've been working there since October, and it's been really interesting. The dentist, it's never the dentist that they enjoy, because that role is the dentist and others. It's the dentist and like 12 ensemble roles.
Right.
And it's like a homeless guy. It's all these other different things. And you can tell that those are the parts that they're really sinking their teeth into. It's not the dentist. The dentist is a great song. Andy Carl plays a homeless guy for Skid Row, which is right after the opening number, and is having the time of his life in it. And you can just tell.
Well, now Andy's an honorary Aussie because he's married Elise, his co-star from Beetlejuice. And so probably coming from Beetlejuice, the homeless guy is closer to his brain than the dentist.
Yeah. Anyways, we're going to move on. I am really excited to have you back. How has retirement been treating you, though? Hopefully not too bored.
No, I'm not bored. I'm not bored because I'm living very quietly up in the Blue Mountains with my partner, and my life tends to revolve around what I'm going to cook for dinner. And I feel so far away from show business, although occasionally it hits me. Like yesterday, I watched the entire of the miscast benefit to see a lot of my friends up there, particularly Brian Oakes Mitchell, who I did 2 shows with, I suddenly found that I was extremely emotional, and I suddenly realized I was grieving. I was grieving my time in New York because I thought I was going to stay in New York forever. And I was there 8 years, and I came back to do Priscilla again. And my mother was sick, and my partner said, I think you should stay. So then I found out Jack O'Brien was coming out to direct Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, and I thought, oh, I want to work with Jack O'Brien. So I signed for another year to stay here. And then COVID hit, so I couldn't go back. And then my green card expired, and my mother was still sick. You know, everything just got taken out of my hands. And I thought I'd come to terms with that. But then suddenly there will be a moment, especially when I see all the friends that I left behind up there doing their stuff so brilliantly, like on a YouTube or a benefit or a stream or something. And it makes me realize that, yeah, I do miss that part of my life, particularly over there, you know.
Well, yeah, old roommates are coming over here soon. Obviously, Will Swenson is doing A Beautiful Noise, so maybe you can sneak back in their luggage.
I've already floated this idea, and I'm so excited that Will and hopefully Audra for a little while are coming out. We've already made a couple of dates for while he's rehearsing, and yeah, it's great. He came out to do the publicity launch for it, so I took him to dinner in Balmain, and he was walking around Balmain going, this is beautiful. We've got nothing like this over there. And I said, well, it's a little village, you know, on the peninsula. So it's great fun to be able to show him around.
Yeah. Anyways, I want to approach this as sensitively as possible because you did just bring up your mum, the legendary Tony Lamont, Lolly Lamont, as she was known because of her famous legs. We lost such a remarkable icon, and I spoke to you at the time and paid tribute.
You did. Thank you. Thank you.
I saw all the tributes, and did that become very overwhelming? Did you get sick of us all?
No, look, it didn't. The thing was, the illness dragged on for so long. It was another 8 years. And so I had been expecting her to maybe die back in 2018. And so she was in so much suffering. She was in terrible, terrible pain right all that time. It was such a relief when it was over that I just went straight into business mode and started to plan the funeral. And it was like, there was no sitting around weeping. It was like, oh, thank God she's out of that pain. The amazing thing was, they told me when she went into hospital, they said she's never going home again. And because it was a rental flat and I was paying the rent, I thought, well, I will get rid of the flat, you know, and just not tell her. So I was cleaning, which, you know, there was a terrible amount of guilt involved in that. Yep. But I was cleaning out the flat and I had gotten rid of absolutely everything. She was a hoarder. And just as I was walking out the door, I noticed there was a handbag hanging on the back of her bedroom door. And I thought, what on earth is this? How did I miss this? So I went through it and there was the usual crap in it that, you know, I'd found there was a lipstick and a few old Kleenex and things like that. And then I found a USB stick. And I thought, my mother wouldn't even know what a USB stick is. And I thought, why is this in an old handbag? So I just shoved it in my pocket and didn't think about it. And then Nancy Hayes very kindly gave me the use of her flat while I was visiting Mum in hospital because she lived within walking distance. So I came down on the train one day and I dumped my stuff there and I suddenly thought, oh, my computer's here. I'll have a look and see what's on the USB stick. So I put it in and suddenly 25 photographs came up of my mother in Gypsy from 1975.
Wow.
They were photos I'd never seen. They were press shots that I had never seen. She looked like a movie star. It was like, why have I never seen these photographs? Why were they in, you know, pictures that are 50 years old, sitting in a handbag on the back of her door? Who gave this to her? So I'm sitting there trying to work all that out. And the phone rang and it was the hospital to say, your mother died 10 minutes ago.
Oh, wow.
And it was like, I'm sitting there with the USB stick. So I went to the hospital and my mother was lying there dead. And I looked at her and I said, where did you get the photos? But it was too late. She couldn't answer me.
Oh, bloody hell. Goodness gracious me.
It was just one of those really, really weird things that, you know, you hear stories about angels sending farewell gifts. That was the one. It was extraordinary, totally inexplicable.
Wow.
Goodness. Did you check the date on, like, right click on the photo, you can see the properties and look at the date and see when they were maybe scanned in.
Oh, right. Okay. I haven't done that. I will do that.
Yeah. So I'm guessing you still don't know where they came from? Oh, wow.
No, they were the original production shots. I mean, they were the pristine production shots. They weren't scanned. They were the actual original. So Lord knows where they came from. Anyway, yes. enough
Wow.
of that.
No, but because I was worried about asking, so I tossed and turned, like, how do I approach this? Because I wanted to obviously send my love and all that, and we spoke about her last time, obviously, and I wrote her an introduction. Your mum was one of two mums I've written an introduction for from our past guests. The other one's Craig Bioko's mum, who I did one for her using Craig's work.
Yes.
This time was actually Tony's work, or I'll say Lolly's work.
And it was a wonderful, wonderful introduction. It was so good, and she was gobsmacked when I read it to her. She just loved
really?
it. Yeah,
Well, you're going to make me cry now. We're going to have to move on because I will. The next episode with Julia Mooney, I think it may be the next episode, an upcoming episode with Julia Mooney. I'm going to cry in that one, so I'll save my tears for then. Anyways.
Yeah, segue onto something less serious. Thanks, Aaron. Tony season is here. Given that you're a former nominee yourself, any favorites of things you've heard or things that you would be excited to see in a trip back?
Well, it looks like Schmigadoon's going to be the one, I think. But it would be lovely if Casey Levy won. I think Ragtime's going to do very well. I suspect it might be Joshua's year. I suspect maybe John Lithgow might win, or it could be Nathan. I don't know. I haven't got much skin in the game this year. Not too many people that I sort of actually know personally. So
Chris Catali?
Oh, lovely, Chris. Yes, I did a pageant with him. We did a workshop of pageant. Yes, indeed. I think you'll certainly get choreography, I would imagine. So, yeah, but it's not a terribly inspiring season, I don't think.
No, it is not. I say that as someone who has seen most of the season. It has not been inspiring. Although I saw something today that did not get particularly great reviews. I loved The Fear of 13, the play that Adrian Brody is in, about a death row inmate who was on death row for 22 years and then was exonerated due to DNA evidence. What a powerful piece. And it did not get particularly great reviews for some reason. I found it incredibly powerful this afternoon.
I haven't heard anything about that, yeah.
No, I had no idea. And even then, like, Keanu and Alex Winters were like Bill and Ted reunited doing Samuel Beckett on Broadway, and I heard the pre-publicity for it, and then I heard nothing about it after that. So I don't know if it was just me not paying attention or
the reviews were not kind.
Okay, that's why I didn't hear anything. Also, I live in a bubble, so
Yes, of course. When you were a nominee, did you have a speech prepared, or did you just wing it?
I think I must have, but I was so confident that I wouldn't win because I'd never won anything up to that point for Priscilla. It was one of those weird things that the 2 years previous had been won by men in dresses. And it was like, they're not going to do it a third time. They're just not going to give it to another guy in a frock a third year running. And it was the same thing in London. I think Doug Hodge had won for Lacage. Yeah. And I forgot what the year before was.
Matilda, possibly.
Yeah, it could have been. And then the year after me was Billy Porter in
Kinky Boots.
Boots. So it was like, it just ain't going to happen. It was also, I was nominated against the two boys from Mormon. But interestingly, Norbert Leo Butts was winning all the other awards. He won the Art of Critics. I think he won the Drama Desk. And I got nominated for all of those awards that year. I got nominated for every single award. So I just was sitting back going, it's not going to happen. I will just enjoy the fact that I'm hanging out with all these people, which was lovely. So I don't think I did prepare anything especially hard. There's always just that second when they're reading out the nominees that you suddenly go, oh, I wonder. And then, of course, it was Norbert, and I just went, yeah.
Yeah. So you didn't want to trip the winner over? Sorry. We'll move on very, very quickly.
Not at all. It was just so lovely. I was going through a lot of I am not worthy.
Imposter syndrome.
Yeah, which has dogged me my entire career. And it certainly did there. When I did get nominated for all of those things, I could not stop crying for days. And it's really interesting because I was able to look after people in subsequent years who went through the same thing, who said, I don't understand why I'm just feeling depressed all the time. And I said, it's because we don't think we belong there, And then it's very hard work because you're constantly at functions every day doing publicity and lunches and things. And you're all traveling in a group pretty much. It's the same people, which was lovely because I did get to hang out and meet people. And Beth Level, I think I told you the last time we talked, was the one who just took my hand and walked me through it. And she literally walked me down the red carpet on the night of the Tonys and just said, just breathe, just breathe. Beth just looked after me. And the other person, when it happened in London, because I was nominated for an Olivier in London, Miriam Margolyes. And I have never forgotten that kindness, whether, it's just some people are angels, and Beth and Miriam were angels to me at that time.
Sounds like.
Just want to shout out to someone who was an angel for this show during our time off, Christiane Knoll.
Oh,
She knows what she did. She knows what she did. Anyways, we won't get into it now. Speaking of metallic things,
Have you been keeping up with your metal education?
well, I've certainly listened to Within Temptation, The Heart of Everything.
but nothing else.
Nothing else. No. I've been sticking with my jazz and show albums otherwise.
Tisk, tisk, tisk.
You had me ask a question that I'm too young for, Aaron.
Oh, yeah. Oh, you are too. So I'll ask it then. We've asked you the Rockstar Writer questions. Our new ongoing question for returnees is, if you as Bernadette were to headline a VH1 Broadway Divas Live with 4 of your female theatre colleagues, who are you headlining with, and what song are all 5 of you going to sing at the end?
Oh my God. Well, it'd have to be Audra.
Yes.
This is so hard. Oh my God. Oh, this is hard. Did you say 5 or 4?
We'll
5.
give you 5. You're Tony Sheldon. I'm not saying no to you.
Of the leading ladies that I had the great pleasure of working with. Number 1 would have to be Audra.
Yep.
Who ended up becoming a dear friend and was my landlady, as you know, who, is incomparable. Christine Ebersole, with whom I did Ever After.
Rich's mum.
Oh, yes, indeed. I was a huge fan of Grey Gardens, and I saw War Paint 3 times. To hear her sing all the way through rehearsal and production of Ever After was a great, great thrill for me. Samantha Barks, who I did the original production of Amelie with in LA. I loved working with Sam, and I think she's a delightful singer, and I watch her career with great interest. I think she still hasn't found the great role yet. Sierra Boggess, great fan of Sierra, and we did all the workshops of Ever After for years and years and years. And then she went into School of Rock, and I went backstage at the Winter Garden and hung out in Barbara Streisand's dressing room with her.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
So I love Sierra. The last spot I would give to Clea Blackhurst, who is now, of course, the mainstay at Jim Caruso's Birdland, doing the Christmas shows with him and Billy Stritch. But she was my Dolly Levi at a good speed. I fell in love with Clea 8 times a week for several months in Hello Dolly. And that trumpet Ethel Merman voice is pretty unique. So that would be my 5 divas, I think.
Yeah. Do you know who else was in School of Rock on Broadway?
Who?
Our co-host, Jonathan, who's not on this episode, but he was in the original cast of that.
Well, I would have seen him then, definitely.
Yes, he was in the ensemble as one of the parents. Anyways, where are we? Well, this week, I blindly chose the album Within Temptation's The Heart of Everything, and Spencer's reviewed it this week.
Aaron, you have found an album that I loved, and I'm going to start with that. Probably my favorite album that I've listened to for this show, metal-wise. What's interesting is I'm on Apple Music, not Spotify like you are, and it was categorized as rock in Apple Music. I don't know how it was on Spotify, but I was sitting here writing up a press release for one of my shows where I was listening to the album, and it was very easy listening. Like, the whole thing was a very lovely vibe. It wasn't overly metal. It was mixed very well. I really, really liked the album. I want to particularly shout out the song Our Solemn Hour, which was my favorite song on the record, and also particularly how the bass and drums were mixed on this album. I thought was done especially well. I'll give it a 4.3 out of 5.
Yeah, pretty good album.
Well done. Yeah. Now, Tony, I know you had to listen to this. How did you go with this one? Because you loved Mr. Bungle, surprisingly. What?
I did. I mean, I was fascinated by this. Apparently, it's officially defined as symphonic metal, which it certainly is. It's, grandiose and a huge orchestra and backing vocals. It's quite thrilling. And yes, our Solemn Hour is an amazing song. It's like an anti-war song with wonderful lyrics. Like I noted one, in my darkest hours, I could not foresee that the tide could turn so fast to this degree. I mean, it's, it's very relevant, and you can see why it's kids today are listening to it and really relating to it. I love the voice of the lead singer, Sharon Del Adel. They're a Dutch group, and they've been together for 30 years, I noticed. Yeah, there was beautiful numbers. Frozen, which is about child abuse, and the video is quite terrifying, which she actually murders her husband to protect her child. I read that she donated all the profits from the single to the Child Helpline International, so they're very socially active. And yeah, apparently the whole album is about moral decisions, and the cover is justice with the scales, weighing things up. So a lot of the songs are about that. So I found it very moving and quite thrilling to listen to. Really exciting.
Oh, wow. Oh, what would you give it out of 5?
I'd give it 5, actually.
Oh,
Wow.
wow.
Yeah.
I think last time you gave it a 3. This time a 5. Goodness gracious me.
Yeah, it was a really good album. I made the mistake of first turning it on while I was picking up my children from school. So I wasn't able to give it its proper due till we got home and I got everything calmed down. It was great. I love it. I mean, I'm not usually one for symphonic metal, but as you know, Aaron, I'm a big fan of power metal. So it was kind of power metal adjacent in that way. So I was able to enjoy it. Her voice is amazing. For me, it's not my usual taste, but just based on the composition, based on just the skill in it, I'd give it a 4 out of 5.
A 4. Wow. Originally, I looked at their first album from 1996, and the first song, Restless, came on, and it was 6.5 minutes or something like that, and halfway through, and I'm like, oh god, that's exactly what I am. So I thought I'm going to skip forward to when they've learned a bit better, whether they've sort of found their groove, so to speak. And so I just randomly picked this one, and I kind of wish I had stuck to that first one, because I think they would have been a little bit more raw. What I felt here was that they were very radio friendly, and so a lot of this darkness I felt like was softened from what it could have been. You've got these vastly different elements of her voice and his rough vocals, and they weren't utilized to their full extent, I didn't feel, compared to a lot of what I've heard before, but also that first 3 minutes or something of that first track that I heard of their first album, which I should have continued listening to. I regret it now. Yeah, so I felt like they were trying to get radio tracks more than experiment musically as artists. Could have been a lot harder, I thought, but then with her voice, I thought she plateaued a few times. That I thought what I heard again from that first track, that was a lot more of symphonic. So that's what I sort of thought, maybe by now we'll have gotten to something that they're really, really good at what they're doing, but it just went radio friendly for me. So I gave it a 2.5 stars. I feel like an awful person right now because you guys all gave it a good score.
Not at all. That's your personal opinion, and you are allowed.
I know.
You're entitled.
What have I done? Clearly, a radio track. There was another one which sounded like it was a Eurovision song written for Eurovision. I know you're laughing there, Tony. That's not a negative thing. I love Eurovision. Goodness gracious me.
No. As I said, they've been together 30 years. She and her collaborator are married with 3 kids. Like, they're very settled. They're not obviously cutting edge.
Yeah, I think that complacency came through. Is that the right word? Goodness gracious me. They just felt like they had maybe, become a bit like nonchalant about it. I think they could have pushed the darkness a little bit more, because if it's there in the lyrics, tell that story through the music as well.
Right.
And so where it was palatable and, 4.3 to Spencer, it should have technically been a lower score, because it should have made him it should have been more polarizing is what I'm looking for. It should have been more polarizing given the content in it. So yeah, I was a little bit let down. I even had a moment of like, have I heard this band before? Because it is a little bit generic. Have I heard them before? And I didn't find their name in my list, but also I don't update it all the time. So I could have. And, of all the metal bands I've heard, they were one of them.
Absolutely.
Basically. So I would like to hear that first album properly, and maybe the first couple of albums, and see how they push their vibe and how they grow. Because I think by this point...
This was their 4th year, so...
Yeah. This was 10 years into their playing or relationship.
As I said, I've been away from the metal sound since I last spoke to you, so I think I was just relieved that it wasn't ear-shattering and too challenging. So maybe that's why I responded so favourably to it.
That'll be your third episode, Tony. We'll make sure we get proper metal then. Goodness gracious.
Oh,
me.
no.
I thought I had this time. I thought this, okay, this is going to be, because it's symphonic and we've got her voice, this is going to be hopefully polarizing enough, but still something that you can sink your teeth into and hear what they're doing, as opposed to rejecting it straight away because it's all rah, 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 rah. But there wasn't much rah, 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 rah there, and there should have been more. There should have been some in her voice too, I thought. It was too just, meh.
Well, I mean,
Yeah.
I think the thing is to have a metal album with a lovely sort of lyrical voice like that is part of the interest to me, that it wasn't a raspy, screamy person.
No, but there was no emotion, is what.
Right, I see what you mean.
Yeah.
Right.
And that will come with a grit at times, and it doesn't need to be all the time. I mean, I don't need a vibrato all the time either. I need someone to be emoting what they're singing.
Yeah.
God, I sound like I'm on friggin' Australian Idol. Anyways, we're gonna move on. Well, it looks like Within Temptation was out of mine. Goodness gracious me, but we'll be back after an ad break.
Hello there, my name is Caroline Sheen, and I've just started an exciting new podcast called Talk Musicals to Me, where I'll be sitting down with some of the biggest names and industry players in musical theatre, including Olivier and Tony Award winners, West End and Broadway icons, and celebrated composers, as they discuss the musicals that have resonated most with them, both professionally and personally, sharing their most cherished musical memories. Join me on this journey through the fantastic musical theatre world and the people who inhabit it. And here is an exclusive sneak peek. Hello and welcome to my 30th podcast episode. Talk Musicals to Me is 30 episodes old today, and in order to celebrate, I thought I would do something very special and get my most special, top of the bucket list, amazing guest to come on the podcast. I asked him right at the start when the idea germinated. He's a multi-Oscar and Grammy-winning composer and lyricist, and he is the reason that I created this podcast, because in March 2020, about a week or two before the world went into lockdown, I interviewed this fabulous person at JW3. It's my first ever kind of big deal interviewing evening, and it was an evening with me and this person. You're going to know who it is. You've clicked, haven't you? You've clicked on it. But let me just tease you a little bit more because I'm enjoying myself. He's the top of my bucket list. He was the most fascinating guest in that interview. And when I did that interview after, I was absolutely buzzing, and I just wanted to find a way to keep that feeling and keep that as part of my life. And that's where the idea for this podcast came about. And a few years later, I met Aaron, who then created the podcast with me. And here we are, 30 episodes in, with top of my bucket list, incredibly busy man, composer, lyricist, creative musical theatre legend extraordinaire. The reason he hasn't been on before now is because he's been busy making a movie of one of his musicals, making 2 movies of one of his musicals. And if you didn't see the name when you clicked on the episode, you're going to have guessed it from that. It is the wonderful, the fabulous, the fantastic, can't believe I'm saying this, Stephen Schwartz, here to talk musicals to me. Welcome to Talk Musicals to Me, Stephen. How are you?
Hi, Caroline. I'm very well. Nice to be seeing you. Have you told folks how we know each other? How we got to be friends and colleagues?
I haven't yet.
I think you should.
Well, it was such a treat. I always call it the best job I never had. The best role I never played. That's the one. We met on the really wonderful workshop developmental phase of your musical Schikaneder. And it was so exciting for me because I was working with you, I was working with Trevor Nunn, I was working with a wonderful bunch of people. We got to workshop this fantastic show that was always going to be translated into German and put on in Vienna, but you wrote it in English and we workshopped it in English. We would do 1 week in London, 1 week in Vienna of Act 1, and then we would do the same for Act 2. So we did like a whole 6 weeks over a year of this fantastic project. And honestly, it's one of the best times I've ever ever had workshopping anything. And then I came out to see it and absolutely loved it, and really hope there's a future life for it. It's not called Chicken Eater anymore, is it, Stephen? It's something else.
No, now it's called Making Magic. It was only called Chicken Eater in Vienna because people actually know what, or more specifically, who that is.
Yes.
He's the librettist for the Magic Flute. But when you're not in Vienna and you hear Chicken Eater, it sounds like someone who's doing something obscene with poultry or something. So yeah, the title definitely has to change if there's going to be some kind of international life for it. And who knows, it may see its way back into English at some point, because you were wonderful in the workshop. Yeah, wonderful.
I loved every second of it, and it's a fantastic show. The cast recording is out there on Spotify in German. You'll be able to hear this wonderful music. But how did you first meet musical theatre? What was the first musical you ever saw or experienced?
Well, the first musical I ever saw will be one that nobody has heard of, because when I was growing up on Long Island in the suburbs of New York City, we lived next door to a composer. His name was George Kleinsinger, and he had written a couple of successful, what we would now call concept albums. He wrote one that was sort of a children's guide to the orchestra called Tubby the Tuba, which was enormously popular.
Fabulous.
Then he had written one called Archie and Mehitabel, which was a story about, I'm not making this up, a cockroach who used to write for the New Yorker, but was hopelessly in love with an alley cat named Mehitabel. This concept album was very successful, and so it was being made into a Broadway musical around the time that we got to know George. And my parents and I would go over to his house, and he would play songs that he was working on for the show. And I'm told, though I don't remember this because I was too young at the time, that I then would go over to his piano and pick out the tune of what he had played or sing it or something. Anyway, at some point, he suggested to my parents that maybe they should get a piano and get me some piano lessons. And so that's really how that all began for me.
Wow.
And then a couple of years later, when it played briefly on Broadway, my parents took me to see it. It was called Shinbone Alley. It starred Eddie Bracken as Archie and Eartha Kitt.
We're back with Thrush and Treasure. I'm Aaron, that's Dave the new kid, Spencer the old kid, and we're joined again by the heart of everything Aussie theatre, Tony Sheldon.
The oldest kid.
Oh, I didn't want to say that. That's so mean. I have to be careful because I haven't recorded in so long. But anyways, before we move on to the fun stuff, I'm curious. You did the original Aussie cast of Falsettos, and it's known that William Finn wasn't impressed. So were you there to hear that, and what happened? I need to go. I need to tea Tony Sheldon.
No, well, I took over for the tour. So
Okay.
Michael Smith did it originally, and Simon Burke, and then Michael Cormick and I replaced them for the rest of the tour. So what, you heard William Finn wasn't impressed with the production?
No, he hated it. He hated it.
Oh, I didn't hear that at all. I did hear that he was, like, they all said he was nuts, and that he was constantly going to the piano and rewriting stuff, which they said was fascinating. But I can imagine he wouldn't have liked it, because it was based around 4 psychiatrist couches that we spent the entire time pushing around the stage. So he might have found that the distraction. I don't think he would have found any fault with the cast, because
No.
Gina Riley and John O'May were fantastic. They really were wonderful. And I loved it. I loved every second of singing the score. But the rest of the cast were a bit over it by the time I joined, and they were just waiting for it to finish. And I wanted it to go on forever. So, I really, it was one of my favourite experiences.
Oh, really? Oh, wonderful.
If performing arts had an Olympics for amateur artists, which discipline would you compete at to win gold?
Oh, I wanted to say perfectionism, but that's not the word.
No, that is totally a theatre trait. We know it. We know it. If you would win gold, then yep, awesome. We'll take that.
It's the Virgo in me. And it probably is my undoing in theatre that I'm hypercritical of people, absolutely being at the top of their game all the time. And I could be quite boring about it. So, I think, yes, if the category is being overly anal, I would win.
Come on, we're all theatre people in this room. No one else is listening. We all know that's so true.
As someone who's like immediately trying to get off book day one when I'm acting, I could totally understand wanting to be a perfectionist.
When was the last time you were out in public and were desperate to break out into song, to sing your feelings, joy, or frustrations?
When was the last time? It was probably my birthday, my 70th birthday I had last September. And living up in the mountains, I miss the ocean and the beach. So I organized a very small group of my best friends to have lunch at a beautiful restaurant on Bondi Beach. And then when we came out and I found myself, it was a beautiful sunny spring day. And I think that was the day I probably would have stood and belted from the top of the rocks on Bondi. Yes, I was very, very happy that day.
Please don't from there. There are much safer spaces in Bondi Beach. I have been there. Those rocks are not safe, Tony. Goodness gracious me. But I get the image. And you have to have the waves splashing on the side.
That's the one.
The diver on the pool above, and yeah.
Yes, and a built-in audience all in Speedos.
Yes. Yes. Okay, we're going to move on very quickly. We have heterosexual men in the room with us, Tony. Anyways.
That's all right.
Excuse me?
Yeah.
Not heterosexual.
Oh, yeah, true. Sorry. My bad.
So if you had to quarantine with a Muppet, who would you want to be stuck in a room with?
Oh, it'd have to be Kermit.
Yeah, really? I love Kermit, but he would bore me.
Why Kermit?
Well, he sings. He has a banjo.
Yeah.
He is kind and he is understanding, and I think would be able to discuss at length many, many subjects. He wouldn't be volatile or
threatening,
shallow. I think he would be endlessly interesting.
Fair point. I mean, my favorite Muppet is Animal, but that's probably a bad idea to be stuck in a room with him for an extended period of time.
Yes, indeed.
Right here on my right breast.
I'm jealous.
That's who I would share a room with, because he would literally chew our way out of the room and we would no longer be in quarantine. So Animal for the win, I reckon. But anyways.
See, but my point is that banjo would get a little annoying.
Yeah.
I say that as someone who is friends with multiple banjo players. It can be.
I grew up in Tennessee and Georgia, so I have a natural love for banjo. So it would take a very long time for me to get annoyed by it.
I'm Aussie with the banjo. See, what you want is, what is it called? Oh my God, the name always the stick with the bottle caps on it. What's that called?
Is there a name for it?
There is a name for it. It's very Australian, and I cannot remember what it is.
It's a shake stick or something, isn't it?
No.
Oh, I thought it was.
Oh, is it an ugly stick?
Oh, that's a shake. Wait, sorry, an ugly stick.
Ugly stick, I believe, is the name of the instrument.
No, but they say if you've been hit with the ugly stick, means you're ugly. That baby was obviously with the ugly stick.
Goodness gracious me. No, we're not talking about anybody's baby in particular, to all the new mums out there. Congratulations, by the way, and happy Mother's Day for the other day before we put our foot too far in it. Oh, a lagerphone. That's what it is. It's a lagerphone, of course, because of the bottle caps. That's why. Anyway, speaking of 70th birthday, perfect segue because I had none written. We'll move on to the musical now. And Tony chose 70 Girls 70 because he shamed me about not doing this for episode 70. So here we are at episode 145, and it's about time. So we actually did that musical in episode 140, which we could have done 70 Girls 70 because that is 70 times 2. So the irony of that. But Dave has reviewed it this week.
All right, keep in mind that I don't have the musical theater knowledge that y'all do. I'm far more knowledgeable about metal, which is ironic as I do stage acting and know very little about musical. So first off, I really liked this album. I think it does a fairly good job communicating the story even without me getting to see the actual stage production. And right out the gate with Old Folks, I got a strong sense of the cast of characters that we're following. Like, while they may be considered older, they're still adventurous, still lively, still determined to live life on their own terms. And there's an energy to that number that immediately pushes back against the stereotypes the title seems to invite. And honestly, the Sussex Arms sounds like a pretty lovely place to live, full of personality, community, in a way that makes it feel warm. And I think I too would consider turning turning to crime in order to continue living there. Now, as anyone who listened to the episode where we reviewed Touched by the Crimson King, Inspired by the Dark Tower by Stephen King can tell you, I am a sucker for metafiction when it's woven into the story. And so I really love the songs feeling like they're directly addressing me. Like, that's one of the things I really enjoy about this musical. There are moments where it genuinely feels like the characters are singing directly to me as I listen to this album. This is especially prevalent in Broadway My Street and the Elephant Song. I love how the show understands that growing older doesn't erase people's desires, ambitions, flaws, or sense of fun. And the characters often seem more free because they've stopped worrying about those expectations. There's so much warmth and mischief and sincerity, and it gives the musical a personality that feels very different from the other cast recordings I've listened to for this show. And that sincerity is probably what makes the album work so well, even without the visuals of the stage production. Even when I can tell there are jokes or bits or choreography I'm missing, the cast communicates character clearly enough that I don't feel lost. Overall, I think 70 Girl 70 succeeds because it understands that its character's age is only part of who they are, and the album is funny, theatrical, charming, and deeply human. And the standout song for me was Coffee in a Cardboard Cup. I really like that song. Out of 5, I give it a 4.5.
Yep. Now that's without having heard the book or seen the show. So
yeah, I had to research those, but I felt like I mostly had it down just listening to the songs themselves.
yeah. Now Spencer, how did you go with this one? Because this is a Candor and Ebb I'm not sure you had heard.
You would be correct on that. And I would go even farther to say I had not heard of. What I've found interesting, actually, in most of my, I've been in New York 5 years in August, that for the most part, my discovery of older shows happens through programs like Encores or revivals happening. And what is interesting is there was an Encores production of this show. And so looking back also at that, I didn't love the music, but I've also found that I'm not really the biggest fan of that style of theatrical music. I think I'd give it a solid 3.
Yeah. Now, I knew this show for a long time because we did Coffee in a Cardboard Cup and the junior kids did Boom Diddy Boom in our acting class performances, a cabaret and review and stuff like that. But I'd never heard the full show and I got nothing but joy from it. From the cast, from the music, from just, memories of performing and stuff like that. That joy came through in it. There's some incredible songs that you just don't hear of Candor and Ebbs, like the Elephant Song. That's wonderful. Coffee in the Cardboard Cup, obviously, and that's in And the World Goes Around. But for some reason, I guess it was the book that, and this show not, being the most successful, that those songs haven't really lived on like the songs from Cabaret and Chicago and Kiss of the Spider Woman have. Though, funnily enough, I could name you songs from this one, but not from Kiss of the Spider Woman, having said that, so I look like a hypocrite. Any producers who have the rights to this, please send it my way. I would love to have a pass at this because I think it's utterly punk rock. These old fogies, I shouldn't say that word, but it's a very Aussie term, going out and stealing mink coats to bloody pay for their luxury apartments. And it's just such a punk rock storyline that I would love to have a go at it because I was a punk on the street, tartan pants with leather jacket and a mohawk, which I posted on Instagram the other day, my wonderful mohawk. So I would love to sort of add that flavor to this because it's a bit outdated and I think it could be a little bit edgier. But the music I thought is absolutely wonderful. And there's not that many musicals that are a full cast of older people. Septuagenarians or whatnot, there's Follies and About Time, which I just mentioned before, Maltby and Shire's latest musical review. It's about aging and it's a great musical. It touches on the drama and it touches on the sad things, but also finds the joy. This one was just pure joy all the way through, I thought. So I enjoyed it. I'd give it, what I heard, about a 4. Because I loved the music, but I'm sure it probably killed someone for all we know.
It did.
It did.
The thing was, it was written at a time when people were fascinated with octogenarians. There was the cover of Time and Follies had come out and No Nanette was a big hit. And Sikander and Ebb felt it was a timely subject to tackle. And there was a play called Breath of Spring, an English play, which was about a group of old people who start stealing fur coats. And it was made into a film called Make Mine Mink with a whole lot of people like Hattie Jakes and some wonderful old English character actors. They couldn't get the rights to the film, so they had to adapt the play. And what they did was they did that meta thing that we talked about where the actors were singing directly to the audience about how wonderful it was to be back on Broadway at their age, and which was the problem for the critics. The critics felt that the show fell between two stools, and they didn't embrace the two time frames, so to speak. It only ran 3 weeks on Broadway. It got 1 Tony nomination for Mildred Natwick for Best Actress, but it was roundly considered to be a disaster, and it is because of the book. There was a successful English production that was done with Dora Bryan at Chichester several years later, and the book was rewritten and a couple of new songs were added.
Oh, really? Oh, bugger. Someone's got there. Damn it.
Yeah.
Well, if the problem was the book, then it would do great today, because I haven't seen a good book on Broadway in a very long time.
Yeah, well, give it to me.
Well, Spencer, I did see that Encore's production. The book was a terrible hindrance. It's ponderous. It's not funny. I went in there with such high hopes, and it was such an interesting cast, except poor Olympia Dukakis was playing the lead, and she held her script almost in front of her face like a life belt, and she never put it down. And she never looked away, and everybody else pretty much off book. And it was like we all became terribly concerned for poor Olympia, because it was like, she's having so much trouble with this show. But there were very jolly people in it. Anita Gillette was charming, and George S. Irving and Carol Cook, and there were wonderful people like Harvey Evans and Carlton Carpenter in the chorus, and so that was wonderful. But that book, I mean, we all lurched out into the night going, my God, no wonder nobody does this show. But it's interesting in this time that somebody should rewrite it, because what turns them into crooks is that the leading lady tries to get a prescription filled and she can't afford it. All she wants is a thermometer because she's not well, and she steals the thermometer from the pharmacy, and that's what sets her off. So we're suddenly in a time now, in America particularly, where the prices are getting out of control and old people are not being looked after, and to have that updated for now, I think would be very timely.
That would speak a lot to me. I mean, I've worked off and on for most of my adult life as a caregiver for the elderly, and for people who and adult clients who really need like their medications, and I think that would resonate heavily today.
Yeah. But as you were saying, there was a death.
Yes.
David Burns, the wonderful original Horace Vandergelder in Hello Dolly, and he was Senex in Funny Thing Happened the Way to the Forum, a beloved Broadway actor, had actually been brought in to replace Eddie Foy Jr., who got sick in the beginning of rehearsals. And David Burns had a wonderful duet called Go Visit Your Grandmother, which he sang with the young Tap, a fabulous number. And he finished doing that number and was into the next scene where they're all pretending to be old and doddery because the police come to investigate the robberies. So they all immediately pretend to be senile to put them off the scent. And David Burns was getting huge laughs with his glasses on the end of his nose and tottering around, and suddenly fell over. And of course, the audience all screamed with laughter, thinking it was David Burns being brilliant. But it turned out he had, in fact, died.
Oh, my God.
Yes. So he went out with a bang, with laughter ringing in his ears.
Worst ways.
Yeah, but it meant that the road tour was instantly curtailed, and they had to rehearse Hans Conried into the role, and they brought it into town. And Kander and Ebb always felt that the death might have hung over the show a little bit, and maybe that had something to do with its failure. So, yeah.
No. That has to happen 3 times for it to be a curse. It has to happen 3 times.
Oh, really?
Otherwise, it's just a coincidence. I'm making it up. Our theatre is haunted by someone who died on a trapdoor, wasn't he?
The Princess Theatre is haunted by Federici's ghost.
That's right.
Yes, he fell down trapdoor.
Oh, wow.
And is still rumoured to be haunting the Princess, yes. And there used to be a theatre restaurant in Sydney called the Music Hall that used to do old music hall melodramas. And a guy I'd worked with named Des Rolfe, a wonderful comedian, as the curtain was coming down and they all bowed and the curtain hit the floor, and he just kept going onto the floor and was dead as the curtain hit. But so he actually died bowing in his curtain call.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that's the only person I know who's died on stage, and perfect timing.
Yeah, goodness gracious. But there's a story from the UK that there was a performer on stage and there was lions in the act, and it wasn't lions that caused the deaths or anything. It was a fire was caused. And so the theatre burnt with these lions in there and all these people. Something like, I don't know the full, I can't remember. It's on another show I produced that it was an episode years ago. So
Dear, that sounds very gruesome.
I know.
Well, today there was something with the escalators at the Gershwin. 3 people were injured.
Oh shit. Oh no, it's only getting really morbid.
What, that's just happened, you mean? Or
Yeah. Today, this afternoon, 3 people
my God,
were injured. A child's foot got stuck in an escalator
Oh,
at the Gershwin. It sounded horrible.
dear.
Yeah, no, these things freak me out. Especially after seeing the Final Destination where, no, I'm not going to get into that. The 5th film in the series, so by then it was, a lot more gruesome. Anyways,
Yes.
it seems 70 Girl 70 is about 70% there. So we'll be back after these messages. G'day, listeners. I'm going to keep it short and sweet. Well, it's me. I'm going to keep it short as much as I can. Don't know about sweet. Anyways, so sorry about the delay in bringing back new episodes. Things in my family are obviously, as I mentioned at the start, have been quite of an obstacle, let's just say. It's been a bit of a roller coaster with my dad's health and my mum's broken shoulder, which she broke at Halloween. So I've had a lot to do, a lot to worry about. And I just haven't had the time to even stop and think about doing this show, which obviously requires a lot of focus and a lot of writing. Not necessarily this episode, which has a return guest, episodes that have a new guest that I've got to spend a week writing the introduction. So don't be surprised in the future if I maybe don't do some introductions because I'm just so tired because of everything else I've got to worry about. At the same time, I have been keeping Talk Musicals to Me on the air, so we've been knocking out episodes of that. Go check that out. We've had everyone from Michael Harrison and Stephen Schwartz, as you would have heard in the first ad break, a little sneak peek of that. And also, Tony Sheldon will be coming up in a future episode. But anyways, at the moment, Caroline is knocking it out of the park in Pride the Musical at the National Theatre. However, that will obviously be closing soon, so fingers crossed that they get a West End transfer and we get an Australian production. That'll be wonderful. Also, from around the world in 80 plays, Lizzie B recently had a run in the long-running hit Les Miserables, playing the deliciously evil Madame Thénardier. So I'm very disappointed I didn't get to see that because, I would have loved to have. I haven't seen Les Mis in a few years, actually. Not as a proper musical, but anyways, I'm talking 20-something years. Not a few. 20-something years. I haven't seen it on stage. 2000 maybe? 26 years? Okay, anyways, I'm shutting up. Also, Alfie Parker from Around the World in 80 Plays is currently in Here Comes J. Edgar, which I believe is sold out for the entire run, so don't try to get tickets. Well, you could try to get tickets, but I don't know if you're going to have much luck. So also fingers crossed that they get a West End transfer for that. As for us here on TNT, not too much news. Mr. J-Wags is obviously at the Second City NYC, and Spencer has been producing quite a few shows, concerts and cabarets at 54 Below and Green Room 42. So follow everyone on the socials and keep up to date with what everyone's doing. As for me, you'll see, I'm going to slam my body down and wind it all around. And no, I'm not going to because I don't get to nap. I got to finish editing this episode. And then at some point, I'm going to have to get up and feed the oh my God, I can't even talk. And feed the pets. So we're back with Thrash and Treasure. I'm Aaron, he's Spencer, that's Dave, and we walked into a room and felt confused because we walked into Tony Sheldon. Now, you do a lot of things incredibly well, but what's one normal, everyday thing which you're terrible at, which everybody else can do perfectly well?
Being positive.
Oh, yes. I feel seen.
I will never learn my lesson about that. It's I'm very easily pushed into sadness and depression, and I don't seem to be able to learn that lesson.
You're an artist.
No, there's no excuse.
I'm trying to justify it because I think a lot of us are like that, very much so.
I take medication for it.
Yes, that's what I should do, but not gone down that.
No. Instead, we do art for it. That's what.
Yes, exactly.
That's it.
So if you could replace a long-running Broadway production with one of your favorite music, which is gone, which takes its place?
There's a show that nobody ever does called Promenade
Oh, yep.
by Al Carmines, and it was an off-Broadway show. Madeline Kahn was in it, and it's totally absurdist, and it makes no sense at all, and Encore's has done it. It had quite a substantial run in 68, 69. I think it ran over a year at the Promenade Theatre, which was up on 72nd Street, I think, or was up around that area. And it's one of those scores that requires absolutely the best singers you could possibly find. I mean, it would be like, it's so hard to cast because every song is like a virtuoso piece of material. It's very funny and it's absolutely crackers, and it's a show that I would love to see somewhere being done by a fabulous Broadway cast of people.
Yep. But what show has to go?
Boot Chicago out.
Yeah, but then you'd have to be in the Ambassador, which is a horrible theater.
It's very tiny, isn't it? Yes, not the best. What else can we get rid of?
I love that show. It's a brilliant show. It really is. But
It's had its day.
it's had its day.
What is one American theater tradition that you would implement in Aussie theater?
The only difference that I noticed, because they were all... No, I lie. The benefit season of things like, it used to be like Gypsy of the Year, but now it's called the Red Bucket Follies and Broadway Backwards, those things that unify the entire community. That, I was so impressed by that. And the fact that for 3 months of the year, everybody is working for a single goal and everybody's working at the top of their game and you're working with all the other companies, and it really is a group effort. There's nothing like that here. Everything's very separate. Nor is there in London. I was very disappointed for 12 months in London that I never got to interact with anybody else in any other shows because everybody just went straight home because the public transport system shuts down around midnight. Everybody was racing for the train to get home. So you never saw anybody, and I never got to meet anybody. So the wonderful thing was I made a lot of friends in New York because of that crossover thing of we were all constantly running into each other. So I would love to see that happen out here. Yeah, definitely.
So what you're saying is you wore a skimpy G-string for Broadway Bears.
I didn't do Broadway Bears.
Okay.
That was, nobody would want to see me in a skimpy G-string. But I went to see several of them, and I remember sitting there thinking, I feel like I'm in Las Vegas. It was so exciting that every single number had the most amazing production values, and it looked like people had been rehearsing for months, even though they hadn't. It was thrilling. But then even things like the Theatre World Awards, which after I won the Theatre World Award, they invited me back every year to present, and they had people coming in and recreating numbers from their old shows. And then I got to present to Tracy Bennett and to Kiala Settle. And then the year before I came back, Peter Felicia said, will you come and give the Lifetime Achievement Award to Cheetah Rivera? So I did a long speech. You know, you give these long speeches that you write. And so those sort of things were just, I got to present an award to Cheetah Rivera and meet her. And It was just fabulous. The whole, I look back, that's why I was grieving watching miscast, because I suddenly was seeing all those people at a benefit all cheering each other on and, standing up and clapping each other's numbers. And I thought that's what I miss, being part of the community.
No, I get that. Now, something a little bit more serious now. Please forgive me for this question. But coming from your family, I feel like out of anyone I want to talk to about this, it would be you. The term Nepo baby is a bit of a buzzword at the moment. And I've met yourself, Charles Hart, Adam Gettle, Joanna Gleason, Julia Murney, who's coming up again on a future episode, and a few more like incredibly, insanely talented people who you've earned your stripes. People have earned their stripes. But at the moment, there seems to be a lot of talk about, a lot of sass and a lot of backlash when it comes to basically people like Chet Hanks. Do you feel that term and the stigma is unfair or justified given our age of TikToks? And
it comes with its own set of challenges, mostly being that people expect so much more of you than they probably would if your family, they'd never heard of them. So you've just got to make sure that you're up to it and that you're good enough, and if you're not, then you will fall by the wayside, or you'll feel permanently frustrated and drown yourself in drugs and drink or whatever. But, it just means you've just got to work twice as hard to step up to the plate and find your own lane. That's the thing. I mean, certainly my personal experience was that I couldn't sing like Helen Reddy and Tony Lamond. I couldn't dance like my dad. It wasn't until I realized that nobody had gone into the business as a classical actor. And so I went, right. So I started my career doing Shakespeare and Eugene O'Neill and Chekhov and then, Neil Simons and all of that. And it wasn't until I was an established dramatic actor that I then started to do musicals, because then I wasn't allowed to go back. They loved to typecast you. So at the beginning of the 2000s, and I'd done all the Sondheims and things, but then once I got producers and then Priscilla, that was it. There was no turning back. I couldn't get a straight play in Australia again ever after that. But it was having to prove myself on my own terms, and that's all anybody has to do. And people do it with various degrees of success. It's up to them. It's up to them to do it.
Yeah. One thing I've noticed about all of you is you have nothing to prove. And I kind of love that, because I don't like it when someone has to pull up their ass and they're stiff and they're wooden. They can't just relax and be themselves, because they're selling something. They're selling their brand. They're selling their identity. They're selling their talent. They're selling this. They're selling that. They're selling their latest show. And I just want to shake them and say, just switch off. Just switch off. Take a cue from people like that. Like Joanna Gleason was one of the earlier guests that we had on the show, and she was just so darn cool. And Charles Hart, I met recently doing Talk Musicals to me, and he comes from, like, his auntie was in Mary Poppins, the movie. So like Hollywood royalty and theatre royalty that he comes from, and sitting there with him for about half an hour just chatting, and there was no pretense. Like, he's sitting in a fucking, pardon my language, castle. He was sitting in a freaking castle. That's his house. It has a name and everything. It's an estate. It's not just a house. It was a freaking castle. I could see the window behind him. Anyways, but you wouldn't know it. You wouldn't know it at all, because he was just super cool. And I think that's the winning ingredient for anybody, whether they come from a family of entertainers, and go into the family business, or whether they come from wherever, that just to be likable and be cool and don't have this pull up your ass. And I think that challenge of having to prove yourself, I think that sucks, because if you've got it, you've got it. We're going to know when you step on stage. And if you're not good, we're going to know. Sorry, I'm on a soapbox there.
What is your most humbling stage door experience?
The most humbling ones were always in London, because people would wait outside and you'd walk out and there'd be people like Jerry Stiller or Sian Phillips or Patina Miller, who didn't actually come backstage. They'd just be waiting for you. And that never failed to rattle me, that these huge, huge stars were standing like the general public outside the stage door saying, we just wanted to meet you. That was very humbling. The other one was when we were doing Priscilla on Broadway, and they'd announced the Brazilian company was going to do the show in Sao Paulo, and they all came over to see the show, the principals, and they were waiting at stage door. Well, they all looked like models. The three girls who were playing the divas, I mean, all of them, they were these glorious model-looking people all standing behind the barrier, clutching their programs. I couldn't look them in the eye. I thought, I don't deserve to be in this show if that's what you're supposed to look like to be in Priscilla. I couldn't speak.
Absolute nonsense, and you know it. Goodness gracious me.
Blinded by beauty, I was.
Yeah.
You've ridden royalty across the desert and the world and come from Aussie entertainment royalty. Have you ever met a real royal or performed for them?
Yeah, did you meet the Queen?
No, I've never met the Queen. I've never met royalty. My mother had a ridiculous encounter with Prince Charles when he was young. She was living in Hollywood and she got invited to when he went to one of the big studios, and she said there was a big dinner, and she said, I've never seen so much rubbernecking in my life. She said all these big Hollywood stars all pushed. She said Charlton Heston elbowed her out of the way to get a look at Prince Charles. She said it was like they all turned into children, but she somehow ended up in the receiving line. This was all because Helen Reddy, her sister, was at the height of her fame at the time. And I had gone to a school in Melbourne when Prince Charles, as a teenager, was brought out for a year.
That's right. Timbertop or
to go
something.
to Timbertop,
Yeah.
which was the next school after Glamorgan, which was where I did. So my mother in the receiving line, and Prince Charles came up and she curtsied and she said, "Your Royal Highness, we have something in common." She said, "My son was at the preparatory school of Timbertop when you came out to do your year of education." And Prince Charles said, "Oh, would I have known him?" And my mother thought he was putting on a funny voice. And she said, "No, I think what," and she suddenly realized, she saw everybody else's faces around her just drop, and she suddenly realized it was his real voice. So she had to backpedal very, very fast.
Oh, goodness gracious me.
So that's our only real family experience with the royals.
Yeah. Oh. So I'd presume for some reason that you, well, not presume, but I guess they did a Royal Variety performance every year, and Priscilla certainly would have gotten. No.
No, we
It didn't come up in search. I was like, what?
didn't come up. No, I don't even remember the Royal Variety performance, but we weren't invited. No.
Yeah. Oh, that's a shame.
Mm.
Oh. In our last episode, you said that the producers wasn't as satisfying as it could have been. So which part that you've played besides Bernadette has left you feeling the most satisfied and accomplished at the end of the day?
There's a whole bunch of them. I'd have to say definitely Torch Song Trilogy, which, is a marathon and such a showcase for the lead actor. And I got to do that 8 times a week for a year and never missed a show. It meant a huge amount to my career, but it was also such a joy to do. Another show that I really loved, that I found immensely satisfying, was Company. I didn't play Bobby in that. I played Paul, who sings "Today is for Amy." I absolutely loved every single second of being in that show. I loved the score. I loved being in that small ensemble group.
That was with Kookaburra, wasn't it?
No.
Okay, you weren't in that one. Okay.
No, we did the Sydney Theatre Company with Geraldine Turner and all those people, John O'May. And no, Kookaburra was Dave Campbell's one. That was the
disaster,
scandalous one. Yes,
that's why I hid my face. I'm like, oh, I shouldn't bring that one up.
No.
I have done a few times on this show with Gus.
Yes, they're the two that come to mind.
Yeah. Oh, wonderful.
On a scale of 1 to 100, how much do you miss performing?
It comes and goes.
Well, right now you're in a bit of a nostalgia moment, so
I am, but otherwise, no, I'd probably put it at 50. I don't feel that I left anything undone. The roles aren't being written really that I'm being considered for at my age now. It's sort of like if I was meant to be doing stuff, then I would be, but I don't have an agent anymore, and I've walked right away from it, and I've made it very clear that I'm not performing. But I don't go and see shows and go, oh gosh, I wish I was up there doing that. I just don't. And I think the reason I stopped was because I just wasn't having fun anymore. So I was turning into an old grump. That perfectionism that I spoke about earlier was being sorely tested every time I walked into a theatre by, standards had really dropped. And it's a very different industry now than it was. So I thought, no, it was the right time for me to walk away. So no, I'm not pining for it at all.
fair enough. I would throw shade at Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, but I won't, because I'm sure there's some fans of that show. But Dave, I'll give you the last question.
They did that show here.
But they got this beloved score, and it gave us a pop music.
Oh, I'm using my Willy Wonka.
Oh, look!
From when I played the role in 6th grade.
When was the last time you jumped in puddles for fun?
Yes. Had plenty of time to. You're a mountain man now.
I am. I'd have to say never. I don't own a pair of gumboots.
No, there's no excuse. You need a good pair of shoes to do it in, and a good pair of pants that you're going to ruin and be like, damn it, I ruined my pants, but I just felt the pure joy of jumping in a puddle.
No, I've lived in New York with all those potholes during the rainy season where you suddenly find yourself knee deep in the middle of 44th Street.
Yeah.
It happened to me the other day. I saw my friend in Heathers, the musical, and then we went to go get a drink 4 blocks away. And we had an umbrella, and it was the smallest umbrella in the world. And her left arm and my right arm were completely soaked. Our feet were like up to our knees. Like, it's horrible.
It's horrible.
I guess not everyone's lucky enough to live in a desert like me.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
God, no, I love jumping in a puddle.
You can do it for us.
Yeah,
you can do
anyway.
it for us.
Yes.
But when you plan to jump in a puddle, it's different than being forced into a puddle.
No,
true.
I'll have the opportunity. I'll have the opportunity to jump in puddles as soon as the rainy season hits here. That'll be at the end of summer.
Gotta be careful because in slippery weather that might be a disaster. But anyways, that's it. You made it out of the torch chamber again.
Yay!
It's been a pleasure, Aaron and David and Spencer. It was lovely to talk to you all.
Yep.
It's lovely to meet you.
No, thank you so much. Anytime you're bored, please come back. I'm going to hit you up in a couple of years anyways. So, anyways, a huge thank you to Tony for joining us again. This is his third appearance on the show, his second interview, but obviously he did appear in our 5th birthday episode, which was the last episode we posted, episode 144. So thank you so much. I forgot to say it. It was in my notes to say thank you. I forgot to say thank you. However, I did say it to him when we recorded for Talk Musicals to Me, and I was recording at the time, but I stumbled through it all, so I'm not going to use it. So I've said thank you to Tony himself, so I'm saying it again on the show. Thank you for being part of that episode and this episode and my show. Anyways, I'm mumbling. I'm so overtired. You can find Tony on Instagram at Alonza Mud. I'll put the details below for everyone's socials because I'm going to just round this up. I'm going to round up the episode. We're finally back. It's great to be back with new episodes. We got quite a few in the can, so hopefully we can get some more recordings in between everything else I got to do in my life. So these episodes may be every 2 weeks. I'm not sure. Also, following up on this episode, we found out some information about the gypsy photos. We found out who took them, when they were put on the USB stick. However, whether those two dots connect, the jury is out. We're still trying to find out where they come from. So the tip I gave Tony was very helpful, thankfully. So we were able to at least get the ball rolling on finding out where they came from. So if anyone is listening and you were the person that gave the USB stick to Tony Lamond, or to Lolly, you may have called her Lolly, please come forward and solve this mystery for us, because it's quite hard trying to work this out. It's a 16-year-old USB, so something like that. It's quite old. It's not a recent one, let's just say. I can't remember the exact date that he told me. So anyways, I'm going to shut up. I'm going to go. Thank you so much for listening. You take care, look after yourselves and each other, and we shall see you next time. Hooroo!